So, and also there's plenty of questions. Meanwhile, Manjula and Harsh are joining also our conversation. And once they are back online, enable their cameras and microphones, we're gonna add them to the channel. So, guys, welcome, Manjula. How's it going?
Hello.
Can you hear us? All right.
Yes.
Once Harsh joining, you. Okay, welcome, Harsh.
Hey, hi.
Nice, you're here now. Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. All right, guys. So you all had nice conversations. You actually introduced the world of React from a few different points of view, from the front end itself, from the usability, micro interactions, and the GraphQL, which is an API interface. So what we're gonna need now is to start asking a few questions. Camera. So start asking a few questions. Okay. One of them is I can see here questions that actually started from the very beginning. So one of the questions sounds like, why not using both area disabled and disabled attributes? Who's going to answer this question?
Okay, I'll take that. So basically, I think the answer to this is when you use disabled attribute on buttons, especially when you submit the forms, it gets removed from the accessibility tree. In that case, when the screen reader is trying to, read through your button, the screen reader might not even find the button. So that is why there is a workaround which not lot companies use. So what you should do is you should make your buttons look disabled and apply some css to it, for example, pointer events none, and so that you can prevent the click, but actually apply area disabled so that the screen readers know that the button is disabled. I hope that answers the question.
I think we lost Charlie for a
Yep.
few minutes. No, it's
Yeah,
okay. It's
I'm
fine.
back here. Thank you. I've got the next question. So, is there any limitations or parts of React you feel could be improved or built on to make developing on it easier? I think that's a good question for the beginners. So, who's gonna pick that question?
Mm, Like, like, mm,
Okay, let's move to straight to the next one. Perfect. Next question is, I believe, for Harsh. When
yeah.
do you suggest to start work on micro interaction? So there's two options. First option, just before the end of all pages in functionality development, or second option, during the development itself.
So my suggestion is like during the development, because in development you work with like your UI UX developer uh, or designing team, and they gonna better understanding how UX or UI behave when user gonna come to your app. And after like creating UI UX, you can like add your micro interaction and try to like run some beta testing in your team. And after getting feedback, it's then you gonna apply into like production. So my suggestion is like second option, when you are developing application, at that time decide which micro interaction you want to implement.
Okay, thank you. That's a good answer. I've got the next question I believe that's addressed to Charly. Okay, you talked about migration to GraphQL. When it comes to REST, would you recommend to wrap a REST API in GraphQL, or should it be replaced instead? And there's a little bit of story. So is it possible or recommended, not recommended, to use GraphQL without Apollo client? Does it make any sense to do so? And maybe there is an example that you can show, can Go on.
Yeah. So for the two questions, the thing is like a lot of thing in front end development. I think like there is a lot of. It depends of the context. It depends of the team that you have. It depends of the money you have to invest. It depends of the experience you want to bring. So if you have like a very very fast REST API, of course you can wrap it because the performance you're going to lose are going to be not that noticeable on the front end side. But I would say that, yeah, like as a long term solution, the best thing to do is to migrate the code. It's not like a sustainable solution to just wrap something, but it can be also a very good solution if you need to really move forward very, very fast, which is like sometimes the case with startup. And for the, can you remind me the second question? It's for like Apollo. Okay, yeah. So of course, I was talking about Apollo because they're making a lot of very great feature. I'm not that knowledgeable on the other client because I really need, in my experiences, to have like big client like Apollo, but there is also lightweight clients like URQL, and I know there is plenty of others. And it really depends of your usage. I mean, if you don't need to do like a subscription, you don't need to do like an optimistic UI or local state or very complex things with GraphQL. You just need to get data very fast and use like the basic features of it. You should definitely go for more lightweight solution, and also lightweight in terms of feature, so learning curve, but also lightweight in terms of impact of your bundle in the end.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I've got a quite interesting question. So that is, we have the interaction between the front end and the back end, and I would like you guys to try to transform it into a little bit of discussion while I'll be bringing more questions about it. So the thing is, when we come to the micro interactions and actually to making the interactions and the user journey smoother and more human readable, clearly understood, and so on. So I would like Harsh to start describing the best approach to a simple user journey, and then maybe you can transform it into a little bit of discussion of how to involve actually these interactions with GraphQL. And let's keep going this discussion forward.
Okay.
Does it sound clear?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. So yeah, so I think we can imagine we are building some product for like food company. Okay, and or we are like building a simple chat application, and we want to like give some micro interaction to users, like Facebook or like any other chat application. So we are giving like swipe options for like they can move to like story to chat to like other facilities, other settings option or other option. These are the small micro interaction we can implement, or we can also implement on click button. Like if he or she send text, it's gonna like create some bouncy effect when he click to the like send button. This kind of micro interaction we can implement in our app. Yeah, and like after like implementing this, we can like get feedback from them and how it's going to work, if you're gonna like or not like. And yeah, and yeah, I think for like front end back end, we need to think like how we get a response from like GraphQL, or if I'm doing GraphQL REST APIs
Yeah.
aside to that. Yeah.
Actually, I would like to address the second question now to Charlie, and I also see a few questions now going forward in the comments. So, what's
Okay.
your opinion on using GraphQL with micro frontends with multiple microservices? And in this case, I would say how to handle all of these different micro interactions from, let's say, different interfaces of the same service.
I mean, I think for that there is a very obvious, I would say, answer, which is Apollo Federation. Apollo Federation is aiming to solving this kind of having microservices architecture.
Okay.
Now you can even do it like with, I mean, everybody's starting to support schema stitching, everything like Ashura is supporting like combining multiple API. So, and also GraphQL mesh. So regarding micro frontend, I don't really see why micro frontend will be different for standard SPA when it comes to use GraphQL.
Okay.
So, but I don't have like a lot of experience with micro frontend architecture, so I don't know if it answers the question.
Yeah, I think yes. And just to continue this conversation till the end, I would like also to ask maybe Manjula about what is your recommended approach of keeping the states actually, right? As I understand, React is working with the states a lot. So what would you recommend to keep that updated?
I think, I mean, a lot of us before working with Apollo started with
Hmm.
Redux. And, Redux is good, very straightforward, although it has a lot of boilerplate. I mean, when a developer is trying to learn, he or she really has to, dig inside and know what are file types, like action types, actions, reducers, and then dispatch it. I think that was a traditional approach, but now the companies are moving away from this approach and rather, bringing in Apollo client and using context APIs, for example, which
Okay.
React already has. But I still feel, using Apollo client is good, but then you don't know what's happening under the hood, right? I
Hmm.
mean, it's like, okay, it's working, but what is happening? Like debugging is one of the issues, which I really
Right.
find still not very good when I use Apollo client. Whereas in Redux, it was super easy for me to just use Redux DevTools and see what's happening and what's going wrong. I mean, it has pros and cons, but yes, as the companies are moving away from the traditional Redux way of managing your project, I think Apollo is, also coming up with new ways. For example, subscriptions. You could do subscriptions. So that there are a lot of things coming in the community. So I think I don't have any preference. It's more like what suits your company or use case.
Okay, thank you. There's actually a few more interesting questions, so I'll try to split them between you guys. Okay, so I can see one of the question is loading GraphQL data into Power BI. Any ideas about that?
Over what? Power BI?
Yeah, that's a question, and I think it's
Yeah.
it's not really that much connected, right?
Yeah, I have no idea what is Power BI. I can very take a look very fast, but yeah, it's Microsoft Power BI. I don't know. I guess it's in the documentation of Power BI to know if they support GraphQL. I have no idea. Sorry.
Okay, no worries. I've got actually a little bit better question. So uh, it sounds like it's from Ricardo Rodriguez. So thanks, Charlie, about the GraphQL util in the live update now working. That means that after we get the first data, we need to refresh the page, or the mutation will update.
So actually, I replied to this one in the chat. So you can configure like Apollo but also client to refetch manually a request. So this is what we do in our application. For example, we don't support subscription because we use Apollo Federation. So we have a custom push server sent event like a WebSocket thing. And every time we receive a push, we are going to refetch manually the request that needs to be refetched or refreshed. But what we can do is also having a pooling. I won't recommend having a pooling because it's making a lot of issue with local optimistic UI thing. But yeah, in the meantime, yeah, this is what refetch or pooling on your GraphQL queries.
Okay, thank you. Now, next question is for Manjula. Okay, could you just share or maybe describe some good resources for accessibility? So that's from Matei. I know there is a lot online, but if there is some good overview place or something similar, I think mostly guys are asking for maybe an article that can represent the pros and cons. You're muted by the moment.
Sorry. Okay. Cool. So I think if somebody wants to really start with web accessibility, I think w3.org is one place where you can start. For example, and if you can wait a bit, I'm also launching a book in second week of October, which will be live soon. And mostly, I wanted to write this book because I think I worked in India for a few years, but I didn't see any company valuing accessibility so much. And, when I moved here, I'm working for a bank. It is really important for me to make sure that everything that I build on the web app is accessible. For example, we also do a lot of testing with, voiceovers on Mac. So I think it's really important because, and I really want to share all my learnings that I've done for past 2 to 3 years, because I think a lot of people think that accessibility is just a tool that you can install it in your project and everything will be fine. But that's not the case. You should be
That's right.
writing semantic HTML right from the start. So yeah, I think W3 .org is one of the good resources to start with, and that's where you can find all the resources.
All right. Okay. Now, there is unfortunately there's no that easy way to bring the questions really to the screen and so on. So let's move forward. I'm gonna still read them. Okay, I can see a really good question. So, is atomic design the best approach to front-end components design, or maybe other options? And here, I think it's actually a good question to all of you to start a little bit of discussion from the 3 points of view. What would you say? Who would like to start with this part? It can be Harsh or Charlie. You can go.
I have no strong opinion on this one. I don't know, Harsh, if you have, Manjula, if you have one.
I can take up.
Yeah,
Okay, let's go.
So I
thanks.
think atomic design more or less relates to how you want to create your design systems. For example, this question is more related to how your collaboration is with the designers and the developers, how you design your style guides, for example, font sizes, primary colors, and how you can break each things into smaller chunks. So, and this totally depends on the company. Trust me, we are trying to do the design systems from past 1 year, but still, it requires a lot of collaboration with the designers, because it is just not a developer who decides, but it is also
Yeah.
a style guide that you need to create in collaboration with the designers to see how the whole web app or how the whole project will be structured.
All right, that's actually brilliant. It brings me to the very next question. So, suppose that I'm a project manager, so and I would like to plan a feature, right? Let's say, I want an interactive web page that is accessible from both mobile and just a desktop, and I want it to be really exciting for people. Let's say they're navigating a social app and they can have different moves and reactions to. All right, so what we have, let's imagine that I'm a good project manager and I still have enough time for planning. And which people should I bring to the room and how to organize the discussion? So I know designers definitely will bring their input into that, how they want it to look like. And now we need developers' recommendations in order how to better implement it and find a balance between both uh, nice usability and a good approach to the development and architecture in it, right? So I would definitely bring here a React developer that understands the micro interactions and so on. But I also understand that I would need a powerful API design right at this moment. And also I need to keep in consideration the recommendations, especially the accessibility recommendations, because the interface is planned to be quite let's say, complicated in terms of elements. So let's go and try to imagine this.
Yeah,
What would you
sure.
recommend? Let's go.
I think firstly, getting accessibility into a company is really, if you like, if you don't even think about it, is really a step that should be taken, because I think I've started advocating it a lot since past 2 years. And if you talk about the scenario that you gave me, product managers often don't always think in terms of,
All right.
accessibility. Like, it's just a feature for them, and they really want to make it work. And even designers, definitely they think in terms of contrast ratio, because the designs always comes from them. But you as a developer should always make sure that the contrast ratio satisfies AA compliance, because that's the minimum thing that you
Mhm.
should be doing. Also, I think to start with, there are, like, in our company we have some test cases. So any
Yes.
developer who writes a new component in the design system, he or she should, so during the build cycle, it fails if it doesn't satisfies the compliance level, or if anything is wrong.
Yeah.
For example, we've also added a storybook add-ons that I also mentioned in my talk. So while
Hmm.
you're building this component, it will console saying all the
Okay.
mistakes that you're doing. For example, any audits that is required. For example, there's one feature which I always say. Uh, let's say you're finding something and dynamically something is changing in the view. Now this
Okay.
thing would not be known to a non-sighted user, right? So in this case you should be using area live. So now all of these things are very little things, but once you start digging in and once you start knowing more about web accessibility, I think that's where you can start documenting. So
Mhm.
once you start documenting, any newcomer who is joining your team, or maybe
Okay.
new to the team, I think he or she can go to the set of documentation, what is required, what is not required. So I
Okay.
there is no in general rule book, but once you start adopting, I think it's a
Mhm.
developer's responsibility to get accessibility, because
That's true.
you also need to fight with the designers
Okay.
sometimes.
Okay,
uh,
thank you. Let's move a little bit forward with the discussion. So, all right, we understand there is a really a huge need of keeping the documentation decent. Now, let's bring just a few recommendations of that you would like to give to your both designers and the project manager.
Mhm.
And let's go from the API point of view, and then from the
Okay. Okay. I didn't understand it was the end of the question. So I'll move forward on the API. I would say I have so many questions. If you want like to have a real role play of like a real estimation of what would be the best recommendation, but I would say it depends. It depends if for the company performance is a feature. It's not always the case. It depends if the product is like public facing. It depends if design is very important. For me, I'm very sensible to just as a small parenthesis, I'm very sensible to accessibility, and it's such a shame that we never address this issue in startups, because
yeah.
in startup we are making money, profit, which is not like the target in terms of accessibility. But I think it's a very, very interesting subject that needs more love, like we say in our discipline. And micro interaction are more close to this subject because we are building like a product that has a very high end, very nice design with a lot of micro interaction, performance, etc. So if to answer the question, because I'm digressing, if performance is a let's imagine like you have only like one, you have a very small team and you want to have a very performant API, I would say go for Ashura because now it's stable. They just raised like 25 million Series B. They have a very, very robust solution. Go for Ashura. If you have one engineer that's like super good at DevOps, go for AWS. You're gonna have a super super how to say that reliable and cheaper solution and more scalable solution
Okay.
for the backend. But so there is so much things to say. So if you have more follow up question on that, then we
Yeah,
can move to the rest.
I understand. Thank you so much. Because yeah, you're right. There is plenty of things that we would like to get clarified. But anyway, what we our goal now is to just give a few breadcrumbs, maybe, or instructions or recommendations to the young developers that definitely have to ask the questions, because it's the best thing expected from any junior developer is actually asking questions, right? So
Yeah.
we would like now to point attention to those questions that must be asked or are expected to be asked from a junior developer. So, first, would you recommend a few of them?
So yeah, like we are like six people in our team, and most of like three of us are
Mhm.
juniors. So then more common question from coming from there to me is like, what is the best part to learn anything new? Okay, and every time I tell them like, read more, like create small projects. What juniors are missing is like they don't create projects. They mostly go to GitHub or any other blog and try to copy paste everything, and they think that they're gonna understand this concept and they are ready to roll, like rock in any like development or any project. They come to them and they're gonna rock this project, but that's not happened to them. They only like copy paste that code and they not gonna understand
Mhm.
basics. And every time I tell them like, please understand the basic concepts. If you are like writing like uh, simple hooks and using like use state or something, why we are using use state, what is array, what is array of objects, the
Right.
basic concepts. Yeah. And they are not ready to like understand. They only want to finish the like targets, like they task they want to finish, and they stuck at the one point and they're not gonna move like forward to that point, and they take like 2 3 days to debug everything. So my best advice to like juniors or who want to start in like programming or something,
Mhm.
try to learn basics. Try to stuck to the basic is like help you to learn each and
Okay.
every language to master it. Yeah, and more
All
is
right.
like data structure. Data structure is
Right.
also very important. Yeah.
Thank you. That's a good answer. And from the Scrum Master point of view, I would like to add a few things. First of
Yes.
all, actually, you're right. First of all, define why you are doing that. Okay,
Yeah.
please ensure that you guys always understand what is the need of that particular element.
Yes.
Sometimes some design things are made just to be beautiful there, but they are completely useless, and
Yes.
sometimes they can even become an obstacle, right? So that's why asking the question why is so important. The second thing, and I think guys will agree here, is that quite often the senior developers don't ask the question why because they think that they already know it. And in most cases, that's true. You guys really
Yes.
understand very well
Yes.
what's
Yes.
going
Yes.
on.
Yes.
But sometimes you might forget about something, about some simple things, just because you already expect the answer. Because you already expect that answer to have it, right, from
Yes.
your experience. And that's why these why questions coming from junior developers sometimes may transform your project into something better, into something more useful, just because there's a fresh eye. Okay, next question is, how do you organize the data fetching? Is it done from one centralized file or from, let's say, different small modules? Which way is better? Who would like to pick that question?
I can start very fast. Again, I think like everything in software development, there is no one way of doing something.
Oh
The
yeah.
best thing to do, like especially as a when you lead or as a software engineer, instead of like imposing like your way of seeing things and what is the best thing, is to build like what is the best thing to have a great like nice and a great velocity way of working in your team. So if you have a team of people that love to work like in the C++ way, you have like three JavaScript file with 10,000 line, and this is their way of working, and it's easier this way. Let's work this way. So yeah, the most like the real answer that I think everybody wants to know her here is like the smallest files the better, and the separation of concern and making sure that you keep all the things that belongs together at the same place is the solution that's going to be like the easiest for most teams. But there is no one solution. I don't know. What do you think, guys?
Okay, yeah, I actually think that that's a good answer to this question. I would like to bring in one more discussion, and I think that really can be interesting to junior developers, especially assuming like the average sense of the questions. So I would say let's imagine a few use cases that you would like to recommend, and let's have really a rounded board in order to discuss. So let's imagine that. Um, you can give now recommendations to two different groups of junior developers. Let's say one of them is building their own project that will be like a portfolio project that they just need to show up and to train themselves to some functionality. And another one is a recommendation to, let's say, a junior developer that is just starting to work in a big company, and we're gonna have like mentors and so on in the future. But right now, these junior developers have no idea what to do and how to join this technology. So, do you understand the overall case? Okay, we can start with the recommendation with how to make your own personal project that you can show as a showcase. Let's go and give some tips. Who would like to start?
I, if any junior developer or like who gonna start the programming, and the programmer want to display that like showcase that ability uh,
Mm-hmm.
and build his portfolio, the my best recommendation to like any guy to build their own like portfolio website first. Like it's not beautiful, but it's like you can understand basic HTML, CSS structure and JavaScript
Mm-hmm.
structure when you build your own website. Because don't copy paste the code from your directly from internet. Try
Okay.
to imagine what 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 your dream website look like, and try to build it. It's okay if you not build it like perfectly, but
Mm-hmm.
if you build by yourself, this is your first project, and you will be proud like you completed your project by yourself. Yeah, this is my first advice to any junior or any programmer who want to start, like build your own website first, and then like start contributing to open source. This is my major recommendation to any programmer or any student.
Okay.
Uh, like try to like contribute in any open source. Like by
Mm-hmm.
myself, I started contributing in like in my 12th standard to open source community.
Okay.
And yeah, and then how I can get like good connections in like the organization of Wikimedia KD, and then I know that these things I'm doing wrong and I need to improve my programming. So for that, I need to learn this, and this thing work like that. So open
Okay.
source for contribution and like creating your own website is mostly helpful to any beginner.
Brilliant. Okay, let's move then forward, and I can see, yeah, uh, Charlie is raising the hand quite a lot. Okay, what would you
Yeah,
like to?
just want to share something real quick on that. I think that my personal feedback on like for junior developer that start between like work and like side
Mhm.
project, I totally agree with you. Is that if you do like side project, let's not use create React app. Let's take time to do like
Yeah.
everything by hand and use like I would say like as a balance, but it's very personal. Use side project to widen your skill and to learn new
Yes.
things, and use work to strengthen them. And
Yeah.
also like a bit like uh, taking on the second question, but basically, as a junior, this is very important to join company when you're gonna have like great leaders and people that's gonna mentor you and you're gonna learn things. Of course, like through the year, it's most likely you're gonna join company when you don't learn that much thing because you're gonna be like senior and you're gonna have to do like all the hard things. And it is very important that in the first year you join like a very that you focus on the human and the technology more than the salary and all the thing. This is very personal, but yeah.
Yes, I totally agree with Charlie. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, how about you, Manjula? What would be your recommendation in that case?
I think all of us go through this journey. We are also junior developers sometime, and all of us go through this. So sometimes we find right mentors, and sometimes not. But I think everything is freely available on web. Like if you Google how to learn C++, the links will pop up. So somewhere you have to start. I think more or less, one thing I would say that junior developers should
Oh
never
yeah.
stop asking questions. Like ask as many questions as, even if it is the dumbest question, I don't mind answering it. Like as a senior dev, I don't mind
Mhm.
answering them 100 times. And I personally feel like even we copy paste code sometimes from somewhere like Stack Overflow
That's
to
true.
quickly find the solution. So it's not that copy pasting is bad, but always understand somebody else's code as well. So even if you're copy pasting, try and understand what the other person has done and what creative you can do to to alter that code. So it's not because if we are not provided with something, we will not learn, right? We all copy paste from each other. Like I think I started speaking when I saw somebody else who was my inspiration started speaking. So I think it's always, we are humans, so we want to learn from each other. And I also feel it's never the case that you cannot, as a senior, you cannot learn from junior devs. I think it's the whole process is like,
Oh yeah. We all
sometimes
learn in the
you
process.
you 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 also learn from a junior dev, because now if you see React has come from 2 years, right? And if a
Yeah.
person is junior dev already adopted and he or she is working on React, a person with 5 or 6 years experience, the React was not even there that time, so it doesn't matter, right? So I think it's all about learning from each other, and
Mhm.
don't stop asking questions. Ask as
Interesting.
many questions as you want.
Uh,
Perfect.
can,
Charlie?
can I just say this? Yeah, something for 30 seconds. I would say for me the most important, like from junior to then when you progress in your career, is to find your way of learning
Mhm.
because
Yes.
we all have different way of learning. For me, I love books. I love like being like straight to the code directly. I don't like videos, etc. I need to go fast on things, and we
Mhm.
have a strong like basics in algorithmic, this kind of thing. So this is one thing. So find your way, experiment. It may take like a long time, but when you have a good way of learning, this is great because anyway, technology are changing all the time, especially on the front end. And last thing about speaking, start speaking as soon as you can because anyway you will never feel like you're ready or you know enough to start speaking in front of people. So
Fair enough.
anyway, just start and yeah, it feel better after.
Make mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Make
yes, yes.
Okay, make mistakes. That's perfect. Actually, I can see more questions now regarding the like how to start and so on, and that's perfect. We actually have 4 more minutes to run, and I would like to ask you the very last question. I hope it's gonna be very interesting for the community. Could you just very quickly, just 1 minute, present a mistake that you made as a junior developer and you learned from it, like the mistake that actually brought you to a good knowledge, maybe an epic fail. Okay,
I have
raise your
one if you I have one if you want to have time to remind it. For me, when I
hand.
started
Okay.
working like professionally, so I've been self-taught, so I've been like doing programming for more than 15 years, but I've been working for like 9 years. And even that, when I started working, I was called like when I was a junior, I was called like the infinite loop engineer because I was always finding new creative way without wanting it to make infinite loop. So the lesson from that, like infinite loop of like specific condition on data parsing of asynchronous JavaScript race condition, this kind of thing. And I would say the best learning for that is test your code manually, QA your code manually, and write tests. This is one of the thing I've learned.
Okay, thank you. That's really good lesson, a good example. Harsh, ready?
Yeah. So, like my early stage of learning, so what I do, I started a small startup for like we are publishing blogs and like e-magazine,
Hmm.
and so I am in just learning phase. And one day I do some changes in theme, and what happened is like whole site is gone like blank, and like all goes are panicking, all
Hmm.
the like developers are panicking, what did you do and why site isn't working.
Right.
So I did like simply did like small mistakes. I write some bad code, and then I learned like don't push your code into the production directly.
Oh Lord. Oh yeah.
And at that time I understand like why the development environment is very important, and stacking is very important before like pushing your code to production.
That's fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, Manjula, uh, would you like to
Yeah,
share
I
more?
think Yeah, sure. I think one thing that I did while I
Hmm.
was like in my journey as a junior dev, I used to not ask questions. Like and just because I thought that, what the other person might think, that I don't know such silly thing. We always have this in our mind that should I ask what the person would think? He's senior, he's my senior. No, no,
Yeah.
no, let me do it. I think you shouldn't be afraid of that. Like, just ask questions. Like, just ask it, and it's more when the thing gets clear when you start learning from each other, and you don't have that hierarchy in your company, and you think about your colleague as your normal colleague, and it's not like, oh, he's my senior, he's my junior, he's my lead.
Right.
I think you should be very very much open and be in a friendly environment, and only then you can learn from each other.
Okay, that's very true. Thank you. And okay, as a Scrum Master, I'm gonna raise my personal mistake as well. So we've been talking about the importance of asking questions, right, and bringing everything down to the communication. So one of my very first mistakes when I just started at this position was that, well, it sometimes, it's quite complicated to raise and create such a safe space where everyone can share their opinions, and they can also ask quite delicate and sometimes non-comfortable questions, right? This is important in order to get this down. So my first mistake was that I didn't ask such questions. I didn't create such a space for my clients. I had it for the team because like it's everywhere in in every book. First of all, you can see that go to your team and talk to your team. Okay, so I didn't ask stupid questions to my clients while and didn't organize this process. So in the end, when we've got a feature set and we started to work on it, we realized that a part of those features is just wasting of time and budget. However, we already started to go that way, and it was an architectural mistake. So right now, I already know this lesson. So first of all, ask all the stupid questions, bring the entire team there, and let them ask all the questions. Sometimes it's even important to have this direct communication between the team and the client in order just to ask, why do you need that element? What is your business purpose? What you want to achieve from the end users? Because we as experts, sometimes we can bring you better technical solution how to do it. That was my lesson. Okay, guys, Our time is over. Now we need to switch to the next speakers. And I would like to thank you, first of all, for all your attitude, for your interesting approaches, and for all of this commitment that you bring to the React community. Would you like to share a few last words?
Thanks, Fabian.
Thanks.
It was very fun, very
Okay,
inspiring.
brilliant.
Thank you.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a nice
you.
day
Bye.
and see you soon. Goodbye.
Yeah.
Bye bye. Have a
Goodbye.
good
Bye.
day.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.